All right, we are live on the Magic Pill Monday MegaCast live, and today is a very special day because you don't have to listen to me talk forever. I'm bringing on a very special guest, a former client that I had the pleasure of working with last year. And the theme of today, and the reason I invited her on, is less is best. As insanely busy people, we always think, and especially if you're success minded, purpose driven, we always think more is better. And if you're a musclehead like me in the gym in my 20s and 30s, and a lot of guys will probably relate to this, is like, more is better, more weight, more reps, more time in the gym. And what I've learned in age, much age and wisdom comes with that, is that more is not better. Actually, less is better, and it's easier on your body, and it liberates time to do all the things that we have to do in our lives. And I can't think of anybody busier in the world than moms with school age children and toddlers and infants. And my special guest today is not only a mom of two boys that have probably 20 times the energy of my two boys, but also a successful businesswoman, a vice president in a very large national company. And so if you're tuning in, I want you all to give a large, big time Triumph Nation welcome to my guest. But before we do that, whenever you're watching this, I want you to put live or replay in the comments. And while you're tuning in, you can throw those in the comments as we go. So Triumph Nation, Facebook world, and my Triumph Fitness community, please give a large welcome. Put your hands together for Miss Anna Holder as I bring her on screen.
Hey,
And
how are you?
welcome, Anna. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a while, but I'm always smiling when I see your beautiful face.
Oh, you're
How are you
sweet.
today?
Glad to be here. No, I'm doing great.
So I wanted to tee this up talking about less is more, and that's what I titled the show. And trust me, and the inspiration for that is this book called The Power of Less by Leo. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Balbuata. Um, and I turned Holly onto this book a long time ago, and it really helps you learn how to prioritize the things that are the most important and have the most impact in your life. And I learned this firsthand working with you last year, which we're going to cover all the things that you have to juggle in your life one by one. But I think a beautiful illustration of the power of less, or less is more, is the Japanese haiku. And Anna and I talked quickly before we went live, and she's familiar with what a haiku is, but maybe some of you aren't. And it is a Japanese poem that is restricted to 17 total syllables, and it's 3 lines, and each line has its own rules. The first line can only have 5 syllables, the second line can have only 7 syllables, and the third line finishes with 5 syllables. And in that insane constraint, you have to convey a beautiful and powerful poetic message. So I think it's a illustration of how less can be more. And I have a real quick actual illustration of what a haiku is. I looked up the 10 most powerful haikus, and this was one of them by Kobayashi Isa, and it's called A World of Dew. And I'm going to read it and let you stew on it and marinate on it. But it's a world of dew. And it goes like this: a world of dew, and within every dewdrop, a world of struggle. So, in those 17 short syllables, that is a message that you could talk for hours and hours and hours about around the coffee table or at the bar or around the water cooler at work, because it has such a deep meaning and it can go into so many directions. So, with that tee up, let's talk about the insane restrictions and requirements of your life. First off, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and you can start with the mom job, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I would say I don't know if the mom job or the wife job is more work, but they're equally as important. So dedicated wife, been married for 10 years, just celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary in
All right,
December.
put your hands together for 10
Yeah,
years of
a
marriage.
decade in. We have two boys, Jackson and Dominic, ages 8 and 6. And like you said, full of energy. My house is like a wrestling ring most nights. And usually my husband gets in on that too. So, I really have three children.
Yes.
So obviously, they're in school. I thought going to school, life would get easier, but now they have homework, they have projects. We've been kind of working through some like learning disabilities. So like it just takes a lot of time to support your children. And that is really, as a mother, that's my job, is to pour myself into my children and be the best I can for them. So first and foremost, making sure that my home life is healthy and happy is of the utmost importance.
And I'll speak for the guys real quick. Us men are like giant children, and my wife will vouch for that. And I know your husband, Jason, pretty well. And I know you guys have to take care of us too. And when we, have a hangnail or something, we need that sympathy and caring. And you feed us. I don't know if you clothe Jason or not, or tell him what to wear, but sometimes we need help in all areas.
For the
But
most part, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I will say we have a very good marriage and we balance things out well. But cooking all the meals and doing all the laundry and doing all the carpooling to and from school, it's just a lot in that and alone, right? And that's a full-time job. So props to all the stay-at-home moms that is their full-time job,
absolutely.
because I appreciate you.
I say it's the hardest job on the planet, and probably the most underappreciated is especially the single stay-at-home moms that have no support. But
Mhm.
it is a full-time job by itself. And on top of that, you are the vice president of client services and operations of a very large national company, Frank Crum. And tell us about the responsibilities and how many people you have to manage of that walk in the park job that you have.
Yeah, so I've been with my company for 17 years, wonderful company based right here in Clearwater. And I've got about 50 to 60 employees underneath me. And it is a high demand job, right? I'm responsible for my teams. We're responsible for, superior customer service, retention of our clients, making sure we've got cutting edge products that we're bringing to market. So it is, I'm there by 7:45 every morning, and we stay until the job ends, and so that means sometimes I'm bringing work home with me. Sometimes things pop up on the weekends that we work through. So really kind of trying to juggle that and the home life, it can be a lot. So sometimes things like, personal health and priorities get kind of pushed to the side. But what I will say is the last few years, I've really honed into the fact that I can only be the best I can be if I'm healthy. And so I've really tried to prioritize my health, both from a nutrition and fitness perspective. And that has hands down been the best way for me to manage through my stress of both my job and home life.
Can you tell me when exactly that journey started? Because I remember it was a process before we met, and you had been working at it for a while. Because I feel like I deal with a lot of moms that will sacrifice a lot of their lives and health because it goes on into their 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is there's not a lot of them left to serve the ones they love. And moms just, I think, innately are so giving and want to take care of everybody. But I always make the point that if you don't take care of yourself or invest some time and energy to protect your health, then you're going to run out of health, and everybody's going to be left hanging. So it's kind of when did that journey start for you, and kind of walk us through that time frame? I don't know if it's like 3 or 4 years. I feel
Yeah.
like.
So, if I go kind of like all the way back, so I had my son Dominic, who's 6 now, and he was 6 months old when I was hospitalized with a pretty severe gallbladder infection. And through that, we had like a bunch of like complications, and I was in and out of the hospital for a few months. And so after that, I was like, man, I've got to get my fitness under control, right? Like I'd always dabbled with the gym, but it wasn't like a dedicated routine. So I started doing, like the Orange Theories and workouts like that. And I did that for a couple of years, and I had good success, but I was always missing the nutrition end of it. And so if I go back 2 years from about now, I started dialing into a couple different nutrition programs that started teaching me about macros and using, MyFitnessPal to track everything. Sort of started to dabble with intermittent fasting. And so like it was a good lesson to learn, but it was a lot of work. I had to go into the app. I had to enter all my food the night before. I really had to think through everything and plan it. And it turned out to be like kind of this burden of like me being like, oh my gosh, I got to sit down and plan this. And then I have to go pack everything. So that's kind of when it started, which I will say, like, it gave me a good base, a good foundation. And then from there, I joined F45 to do my workouts, and they were doing a challenge. And with the challenge, we got a nutrition coach. And I was like, this is great. This is exactly what I need. And so we got a meal plan. And what it was kind of like, I think it was 5 or 6 small meals a day. And depending on when I would work out, which is first thing in the morning, is when I would have to, eat within 45 minutes. And then it was like every 2 to 3 hours. And so again, what would happen was I would have to really sit down and plan and pack all of these small meals the night before. And it was just a lot of work. I saw a little bit of progress, but for the amount of effort and work I put into it, I was like, man, I'm just really not where I want to be. So that's really what drove us to you, so that we could learn more about the nutrition side of things.
That's a great setup. And from my memory, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not always perfect, as my wife will point out. I see that Holly's on. It felt like, yeah, we actually came to check out our Kid Fit, and that's how I know how high energy your kids are. And is it Dominic, the young one?
Mm-hmm.
And that he was like 6, and he was doing like 50 push-ups, and I was like, man, I want that kid's energy. Let's bottle that up. But the little young for the age window of our Kid Fit program, but Anna and I had a conversation and kind of expressed some of her frustrations, and you were kind of plateaued doing all that work. And that led to us having a consultation. And this is the perfect setup for less is more. And you had a cruise coming up. I think we started working together in April of 22 last year, and you had a cruise in June, I believe, mid-June. And it was a powerful motivator. I always love when somebody has like a wedding or a debutante ball or a cruise that they can use as a catalyst and motivator. And you were like kind of stuck at around 24% body fat, if I remember. Right. And I actually have your InBody results that we'll bring up on the screen here in a second to show kind of what happened through the process. But is that a fair setup as far as you were counting your macros, eating 5 to 6 small meals, you were working out 6 days a week and doing yoga on the 7th, and basically manage your household and 50 employees at work? And I still don't know how you did it all without pulling your hair out. But is that a fair kind of picture of where you were when we started?
That's all true.
Okay, cool. And then it's always better coming from the client's mouth than mine. But so we started working, and I know you were surprised because we always think more is better. And I was like, I think you're going to need to exercise less.
Yeah.
And do things a little bit differently. You're not going to have to count your macros, and you're not going to have to eat 6 meals a day. And you're going to have a little bit more time and mental freedom to do all the other things that you have on your plate. And so kind of walk us through from your experience what that was like on your end, and then we'll talk about the results of the impact of that.
Yeah. So I will say, like, when I came in to kind of do like our first like meeting, I brought my husband, Jason. And so like Jason was kind of like, along for the ride, right? He was just like, oh yeah, I'll support you with this. And what was really great was when we came and met with you, Matt, and you were like, let's do this together. Like the two of you will create this accountability. You guys will motivate each other. And so like he got on board and I was like really, really excited about it. And what I will say is having that accountability with your partner makes it that much easier and that much more of a motivation. What is a little demotivating is that how quickly men drop fat compared to women, but that's a different conversation. So basically,
valid. I will say it's valid. And I remember like it was yesterday when he got on the scale in your first InBody, and what you said is true. Men generally, unfortunately, when you're a woman, we burn 30% more calories because of our muscle mass than women. So I don't know if you remember, he was like kind of bragging a little bit. And I was like, Anna, you're not competing against him. You're competing against the other women that I have as benchmarks. And of course, you did very well. And I also told him, like, back off. You're not competing against her. I got some guys that you have to stack up against. And I think that took the competitiveness out of each other, which would have probably made it not real fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was great. So basically what that allowed for us to do is because we were doing it together, and really like once you learn like the program, right, all I was really having to do was I would dedicate Sunday afternoons to doing meal prep for us. And I would basically cook our meals. We would eat the same thing, obviously different portions. And I would pack our lunches for the week. And so what that allowed was I wasn't having to sit there and plan the night before for everything I was going to eat the next day. I'd literally grab my lunch. I'd make a protein shake in the morning and I was good. That's all I needed for the day. And then we would start our day with our magic coffee. And that was, pretty phenomenal. Like both Jason and I looked at that recipe and we're like, there's no way that this is going to be good. And now we're hooked. I mean, I still drink it. So
just for reference, so you were doing 5 to 6 small meals before, and then with my Nutrition Made Simple protocol, you went to what?
So we were eating 2 meals and a snack. So basically, and the magic coffee in the morning. So like my magic coffee, I would get up and work out at 5. I would make my coffee on the way out the door. So I would drink that about 7 a.m. And then I wouldn't really break my fast or eat. My window was like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's just what worked for me. And so I would end up breaking my fast with my shake. And then about 1 or 2 o'clock, I'd eat my lunch. And then I would be able to come home and have dinner with my family at 5:30.
So it was less prep. You mentioned earlier about tracking macros and an app, and how long did that take you? And before that, you were having to devote that time every single day. What was that like?
I would say like I was easily spending an hour a day between actually planning and tracking it in the app and then getting up and packing it according to what I was logging.
Yeah. And in the chat for you guys that are watching and girls, tell me who would love to have an extra hour of their day where they're not doing something mentally tedious like putting in macros and looking things up in an app. Yeah. If I can give somebody some time, especially a busy mom like Anna, to me that is so rewarding as a coach. And and of course, if there's results that follow, which we'll get into in a second, but so it's fair to say it kind of liberated an hour a day of your time.
Yep.
And then all the time of eating all those meals was somewhat reduced, even though there were smaller ones. And then you got to do it with your spouse. And tell us a little bit about exercising less. I know most people were like skeptical. Oh, more is better. Calories in, calories out. Move more, eat less. But there's a science behind this. And what Anna was saying is, I call it protein forward. Like her plan, she mentioned a protein shake. Like when we go protein forward in a nutrition plan, it sets up the dominoes for success to reduce cravings throughout the day. So you're not fighting your own willpower in the cookies in the break room, or I don't know what you're dealing with at your work, but I know some of my clients deal with hell in the break room. But when you don't have those cravings and you don't have to fight your willpower, that makes it a lot easier. So I don't know if you would say that's a fair experience on your part or not.
I definitely feel like this program really showed me the power of protein. I think just prioritizing protein, it absolutely helps. It cuts those carb cravings. And that first 28 days, right, where we're eliminating all the fun stuff, if you will, you allow your body to kind of reset. and you have the opportunity to see what that food group impact is on your system. And so for me, the biggest hands down impact was gluten, or just the grains. Now I still love some of my carbs, but like we've naturally shifted from regular pasta to like brown rice or quinoa pasta. It's just a staple that we've replaced in our household. My kids don't notice it. Jason doesn't mind it. So it's like a healthy substitution, and we all feel better.
Absolutely. And the science behind what Anna's explaining is the two eyes, I call them the snake eyes. We're controlling insulin and inflammation with the protein forward and eating certain types of food. We're reducing insulin, which makes the body release fat instead of store fat. And then by reducing inflammation, your body heals faster and you feel better. And when it's less inflamed, things work better. So those two things are very simple concepts, but we make it challenging in execution. But you mentioned something before we got on the call that was also fascinating. We have a supplement routine recommendation that comes with the protocol, and you told me something that kind of floored me, and I'd love for you to share that with everybody else.
Yeah. So for anyone that has kids, that they're a walking petri dish, right? So they bring home all their germs. And so inevitably I would get those germs and I would get sick. And so like clockwork, I would be, sick with a cold or a flu or a bug, whatever, every 3 to 4 months. Since I did your program starting April 2022, I take the daily vitamins every day and the supplements at night. I have not gotten sick since then. Not a cold, not a flu, nothing. So I have, like, besides being in the best shape of my life, I've also been in the best immune shape of my life as well, which is awesome because I don't have to worry about downtime.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit about that when we were going through your program, why I helped you navigate to less is best. And it's fair to say when you were doing so many things as a mom, work, and you're just going 90 miles an hour all the time, you get into a status called overreaching and possibly overtraining. And when you're full overtraining, and it's scientifically proven, you can wreck your immune system and you're going to wreck your body's ability to get the results you're working so hard to get, because your cortisol gets all out of balance and that affects sleep. And it's just this whole cascade of issues. And that's largely why I thought you were the perfect guest to illustrate this point that less can be more, because once you allow enough time for recovery and allowing your body to heal from all that hard work, we got to prioritize that just as much as the exercise. So I always say work hard, but recover or rest harder. And I can't wait to show your results, which, hey, everybody in the chat, if you're watching, who wants to see the impact of these decisions, we're going to get into her InBody results. And InBody 570 is a $10,000 biometric scanning device that we use here at Triumph. They're available all over the country. You just have to do some Google research and find a facility, and you're probably going to have to pay for it. But it's worth it to really see what's going on inside your body besides what the scale is telling you. And this is how we track our results at Triumph, so we can see as the weight changes, what's happening to muscle mass, your fat mass, and your basal metabolic rate. So those are the big three I look at just to make sure whatever somebody's doing is producing the results and we're going in the direction that they want, their stated goals. And having that InBody is such a great tool for us, because if we're getting off track or drifting off course, or the results aren't happening, then we need to shift gears. But I will have to say, in 24 plus years of doing this, 5 with the InBody now, and I had a different device before that, like Anna and Jason, her husband, were 2 of the most phenomenal success stories, especially when you consider both of them have insanely busy professional management jobs on top of raising their kids and parents for that matter. So are you ready to see your results, Anna?
Let's see them.
Do you mind if I share?
Go ahead.
All right. So let's see if I can pull this off. I'm still learning the tech, but we'll go right here. And what we have here is the InBody gives us a bunch of information. So I kind of cherry picked some of the things that most of you can relate to. Body mass index. If you just look at that number on the top left of your screens, it didn't change that much. And that's sort of like the scale. If you're just looking at your weight, it can be insanely frustrating if that number isn't moving. So if you have a scale at home and you're putting in the effort, if nothing else, a big takeaway from today is get yourself a Renpho Bluetooth scale. It's about $25 on Amazon. I include that with my virtual coaching program. And if you're watching this and you're interested, you can put YOLO. It's called Year of Life and Onward program, YOLO 360. You can put YOLO in the comments and I'll reach out to you and send you a program overview video. But part of that is having this kind of information. But let's look at, you had a pretty ambitious goal going into your cruise and you were kind of stuck around that 23.8, 24% range for, I think it was 8 months ish.
Yep.
Doing the whole 5 to 6 meals and 6 workouts and yoga and all that. And by doing less, if you can, I know it's probably small especially if you're watching on the phone, but April 15th of 22, she was at 21.8 and then percent body fat. And then it went up. This is typical. When we change anything, the body kind of goes into reactive mode and then it normalizes. And then all of a sudden, like clockwork, she started coming down. And you can see on June 10th, less than 2 months later, she was down. I think your goal was 17. And I don't know if this included that last crazy week we did, but 16.8 for a female is in the like 98 percentile. And the higher the percentile, the better. So she's in the upper percentile for women as far as percent body fat. How did that make you feel on the cruise, for one? I know I saw some of the pictures.
I will say, so it was both a physical and mental challenge, like physical, obviously, right, to just get to the leanest I could be, but mentally to just know that I could commit myself and be that dedicated to it. And we did like a week or two of like a really severe cut to try and like hit this goal. But we did it in 2 months. And when I saw that number, like, I will tell you, it was probably one of the proudest moments of my life that I was like, oh my gosh, I was able to accomplish this.
Yeah, I remember you actually hit your goal and we still had a week left. And you're like, I was like, well, if you want to go further, like, I don't necessarily think it's necessary, but you're like, I'm in, let's do it. And so we went even, spent that last week kind of like a figure prep, which I don't like to do that often, but look on the right. This is where I think the rubber meets the road. So you have on the top of the right-hand side of your screen, her weight, which you can see went up, down, up, down, up, down. Not a whole lot of change from beginning to end, but right below that is skeletal muscle mass. And for those of you who don't know, as we get older, we always blame our metabolism for slowing down from our 40s into our 60s. But the reality is your metabolism is directly correlated to your muscle mass. So living a sedentary, inactive lifestyle where you don't lift any shit, I call it, resistance training, you lose your muscle mass. It's use it or lose it. But looking just from April 15th to June 10th, her muscle mass went up significantly while her body fat, the number right below that, went from 31.6 down to 25.4. So I had a challenge on one of my posts, like, oh, you can't, what did they say? You can't gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. And I was like, dude, you don't swap them one for one. They're two different tissues, but I have 83% of my clients gain muscle and lose fat simultaneously. But this was probably the best female results I've had in a long time. And you crushed it. And from the pictures you sent from the cruise ship, you crushed your bikini photos too.
I did. And what I will say for anyone watching, especially the women, is pay so much attention to the right, the muscle mass and the body fat. Because I fell into that trap of weighing myself on my home scale and being like, oh my gosh, I'm at this number. And you could see I really didn't lose a lot of pounds right on the scale, but my total body composition completely changed. And I don't even use my home scale anymore. Right? It's not in use.
Tell everybody, because this is a hard point for people to get. Like, even though your weight didn't change, I don't know much about women's clothing sizes, but I'm gonna bet a lot of money, not to you because I don't want you to lose, but your clothing size had to get smaller.
Oh, I dropped from a size 6 to a size 2. I actually had to
Boom.
go out and buy a whole new wardrobe, which
Yes.
is a shame because I have really nice work clothes that I can't wear anymore. But no, it was a huge change, and like you said, like I really didn't change a whole lot of weight, but my body was just completely different.
Man, so that's what I call the tail of the tape, and why it's so important to understand biometrics and to have this information. Otherwise, you could be frustrated. But if you don't have, the information, then it's important to kind of go by how your clothes feel. Just don't go by the scale weight because you'll probably be really frustrated. But the important part of losing weight the right way is that Anna teed herself up by raising her muscle, and I'm pointing to the muscle on the middle right. Her basal metabolic rate, even though she lost all that fat mass, her metabolic rate went up. So when she went to maintenance mode, you got to enjoy those extra calories. And we talked about, we call them pick ones or fun food freebies. And you still got to do that throughout this process. So I don't want people to think you were eating chicken and broccoli for 8 weeks, but tell everybody how you were still able to have some fun and some treats and
Yeah.
still achieve these results.
So what I said to Matt right before we got on this is what the beauty of this program is that yes, you're following a program, but you can still enjoy life, right? You're still allowed to have your glass of wine. You can still have your dessert. You've got your feast days where you're kind of like refueling. So like there was plenty of leniency in the program to stay on track and still indulge so that you weren't like, what I found in other programs in the past is I would go so hard, Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday would roll around and I would go completely off rails, whether it was, the pizza or the beers or the sweets. And so like by building some of that in throughout the week, you don't go completely off track and you also don't feel like crap afterwards.
Absolutely. And we know, and I had to learn this in my coaching career. And if you think of it as a child, you have children, I have children. The worst thing you can do is tell them they can't have something. They're going to fight you tooth and nail just to make a point. And as human beings, that's our nature. So I always learn, like, I'm going to tell you, you can have it and actually put it in our program manual as a choice. And I feel like when you feel like you can have something that's not restricted, it sets you up for long-term success. And using that protein forward and learning how to manipulate insulin without tracking macros, it works so well and it's so easy. I've been doing it for 4.5, 5 years now. I'm able to keep my body fat around 10% and still have fun stuff and still have wine with my wife. And it just makes the world go round in a nice way. And what would you say to somebody that is out there and maybe skeptical that, it's possible to do more with less?
So I will say that this was one of the very best decisions of our lives. It was life-changing for both Jason and I, but I will say like something we didn't expect at all was the results that we got were so profound. We motivated so many of our immediate community, our family, our friends to take that step themselves, and they have seen phenomenal results. And so seeing some of our dear friends, John and Kareem and Carrie, and they've seen those results, like, that you are helping them live a better life and look and feel better in the process as well. So it is worth the investment for yourself and for your family.
And you said that is beautifully said. And I always tell spouses, particularly, you can't coach your spouse, as we know, or maybe you don't know, but your body is your billboard. Like I always say, let your results speak for themselves. And then people will want to know, like, from a position of credibility, what are you doing? And I can say Anna and Jason referred me more clients than any other single client or couple ever referred me, and I will forever be grateful for that. And one you mentioned, Kareem, his results have inspired somebody else that I'm meeting with tomorrow from y'all's kids' school. I believe your kids go there too.
Yep. Yep.
And so it's the ripple effect. And that's why I call Triumph Nation a movement. And it's like we all do our little parts and make decisions, and those can have a ripple effect on people you don't even know. And my wife and I see this all the time when somebody reaches out and says something, and it reminds us why we do what we do is to help people, especially busy, purpose-driven parents that have all this stuff on their plate, to achieve your results, but have more energy and still get the fun out of life. And hopefully that's a fair assessment of how we do this program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure working with you, Matt, and with Holly. And so we've learned so much from you guys, and it's been a great ride. So even though we're a year plus past when we first started the program, these are things that we have taken and learned and put into our daily life. And it doesn't feel like we're following a diet. Like, it is a lifestyle change that is sustainable, that you can keep going and doing. And so this is the way we live now, and we're very happy with it.
Yeah, and we'll wrap up with that perfect summation is that I've always want, like, the analogy, if you give someone a fish, they eat for a day, but if you teach them how to fish, they eat for a lifetime. And the goal with our program is not to have you be a perpetual client. It's to give you the tools and equip you for life. And that's and Anna doesn't even know this. My wife and I launched YOLO, which is Year of Life and Onward is what it stands for. And we just pre-launched it last week, and we're going to launch it to the general public very soon. And it's basically a year of life of this coaching and this teaching you how to do all the things, manage your schedule, chunk your time, eat in this way, and then, prioritize the time that you do have with the exercise piece that will give you the most bang for your buck. And the goal of that program is giving you in a year, equipping you for the rest of your life and a longer life and a better life and a more functional and happier life. So that's a vision of the program. And I couldn't think of anybody better to kind of tee up how less is more. And you're such a great role model and example, and keep crushing it. Any final words before we sign off?
No, I think we've covered it all. But I do appreciate all you've done, Matt, and for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and just the impact that you have on everyone. So for those watching, definitely tune into this. It's a great program. It is life-changing, and it's not just for me and my husband, right? We've got our kids. Those are our legacies that we want to invest in, and showing them how to live that healthy lifestyle is super important, and they see it.
Absolutely. And we'll wrap up. Like, if you're watching this later and you're interested in more information about this program we're talking about, you can put YOLO in the comments, and then we'll reach out and just give you some program information just to see if that's something you're interested in. And then if you are, we'll share the program details with you on what we're doing. But thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule, and love you guys. And I know Jason's on because I see him commenting. So Jason, shout out to you. Hopefully you're beast mode in the gym still. We'll have to get together for a workout very soon and do another Bascom's night for sure.
He's running over. He's got to come flex now.
Uh-oh.
Now he's like, oh yeah.
Woo, there he is. Show him the biceps, boy. Oh yeah, still looking good. All right, you passed. All right, there's the other ones.
There's the crazy one. All right, Matt, good seeing you, and we'll get together soon.
Until next week, everybody. Magic Pill Monday. Coach Matt O'Brien signing out. Y'all have a beautiful, amazing week, and the why and triumph is you. Y'all take care. Thank you, everybody.